Hi everybody. Tonight I want to talk to you guys about skulls. Um, you've probably seen a lot of artists draw skulls. There is a reason for that, besides them just looking really cool. Um, just the same way that artists will do live drawing with nude models, because we want to understand what's going on beneath the clothing. Skulls are a great way to understand what's going on with the head. So if you're a portrait artist, I would strongly suggest that you try and draw skulls every now and again. You don't have to do it all the time unless you really are into that. And of course, you can find books with photographs in them, or you can find photos of them online. But ideally, I'd actually recommend that you try and get one of these guys. Most art stores sell them in all kinds of different sizes. You can get big ones, little ones. This guy actually comes apart. You can see that, and the jaw does move. This is from my local art store. I think it was about $10 or $12, so they're pretty inexpensive, and definitely very accurate as far as anatomical features and proportion in that. You could probably get away with one from a dollar store or something, but I'd really urge you to find and make sure that the proportions are correct before you buy one. Yeah, and they're definitely useful to have. So tonight we're going to just do a little bit of a drawing of a skull. The first thing kind of to notice about a skull is how everything is, the proportions are dead on the same way that we draw a face, but sometimes the hair throws things off, right? And sometimes we don't see exactly where the eyes are supposed to be. But with a skull, there's nothing really impeding any of that. So we can see that the eyes are basically halfway through, right? If we were to make a mark right through there. And it's sort of a series of different shapes. So, you can get away with doing an oval and another oval in here, right? It's actually very, very simple. One of the nice things about doing a skull is you can end up with something that is a finished drawing that's more accurate looking than a portrait, which sometimes can be difficult to do. So I'm just going to lay this down with this is just a school grade 2B pencil, or number 2 or something like that. Okay, and I'm actually going to put this down over here because it's sort of hard for me to hold it and draw it, but you saw what I'm drawing from. So so a lot of times when I do videos, I go really a lot darker than I would normally, simply because I'm trying to show the process a bit better, but this is probably about as light as I normally draw. So hopefully this shows up on the video. I don't know how well it will, but I'm hoping that it will. Right, and there's no necessarily any rhyme or reason to why I would go with something darker or something lighter at this point. Some lines sort of jump to the forefront for me, and other lines don't. You're starting to see it coming together now. I feel like, and this is where, at this stage, I often find this is where the corrections need to be made. I can see that it's a bit too wide in this part here. It's looking more right. See, that's starting to come together. Yeah. Now, I often at this stage like to go with the white. I could continue to build up some proportions, but I've got enough that I think that I can sort of come in and decide where my lines are going to be. And even though it's not fully finished being blocked in, it's probably enough of a block in at this stage that I can come through. And again, I'm working on a really nice paper. This is a Strathmore toned tan paper, toned tan sketch, I think it is. And so I have the confidence that if I decide that some of this isn't right, I can erase it, right? Without, it doesn't matter whether it's the graphite or the charcoal, I can erase it. You can see that I try to anyway be very I try to plan my actual strokes, right? So they're going in the direction of what it is that I'm drawing. It's not just simply, you know, all in the same direction or what have you, right? And that's kind of important because if you're indicating form and you're putting things in the right direction, it'll certainly help with that. Now I'm switching to the Prismacolor Ebony Black. As if you've seen any of my videos or read the descriptions on my Instagram posts, you know that it's generally the pencil that I prefer the most. I would say it probably is the equivalent of about a 3B or a 4B. It seems to have a higher carbon content than a lot of other brands. I don't know. I just like it. The only time I don't really make this my go-to pencil is if I am working on white paper. And in that case, I find that having a larger range of 2B, 4B, 6B, 8B sort of thing is more valuable. But on toned paper, I often find that this is sufficient for most things. I will still come in and use 6B or an 8B on the really dark areas sometimes, but for the most part, probably 80% of the drawing is done on or done with the ebony. Sorry, see, I think I've mentioned before, it's not always the easiest for me to draw and talk at the same time, so hopefully what I'm saying makes some sort of sense. And as I said, this is just sort of I wanted to give you a rough idea of how I block in a skull. I'm not gonna do the whole finished rendering, but it's a nice start. Everything's sort of coming together pretty well. What is very interesting, and maybe I'll do that in another video, is to block in a skull and then draw a portrait from that, right? So you would then, if you did this very, very lightly, you could start filling in the eyes and then, you know, the nose cartilage and things like that, right? Which is always kind of fun. If you start with a basic skull and then you build out the face from that, sometimes you get fun results as far as what the person looks like. I'm just switching pencils rather than using my electric sharpener, which is very loud. And normally I've done teeth. I think there's a video on drawing teeth. Normally when you draw teeth, you want to be very careful not to outline them and not to be too much, but with a skull, because if you put too much detail in teeth, they often look like creepy and scary. But on a skull, that's okay. That's not a problem because it's a skull. So I get the sense that we have too much of an underbite here, so we're going to move it over. Okay. These teeth actually need to be a little bit longer. But that's okay. They're just sort of fun. So there's a quick sketch of a skull. Now, when you get to this stage, what do you say? You look at it, you say, now there's something that I feel is a bit wrong. And I can tell you right now that that mouth is too far out. So, as I was saying earlier, the nice thing about this paper is that we can actually, sorry, pencil sharpener, we can actually correct things without too much problem. So this is actually probably more accurate. So it was out here, but we're going to come in here. He was looking a little bit too much like a monkey, which it's not. It's human skull, so we want to get that corrected. There we go. I think that looks a bit better. So what has that been? That has been 12 minutes. Just a quickie. You know, and always, like, for added flair, you know, you can add in a bit of line or whatever, what have you. But there you have it, the basics of a skull from this little guy. And yeah, write in the comments if you liked it or if you want to see anything else. I do have a few videos that I've already made. I have a few that are on the way, and I do promise that I will do a full portrait, how to do likeness video just as soon as I can. I know that I need to do a couple things, some overlays and that. So I need to find the time to do it. That one's going to take me a few hours. But in the meantime, hopefully these little guys are helpful, and have a great day.